Good communication is essential in all aspects of our lives, whether it's in our personal relationships, at work, or in social situations. But how do we go about improving our communication skills? In this video, we'll explore some tips and techniques that can help you become a more effective communicator. Hi, I'm Keisha Golder, and today I am sharing with you 5 tips and techniques as to how you can become a more effective communicator. Let's jump right on in. The first tip, and I believe this to be the most important tip, is to listen actively. Active listening is where you're not just hearing the words that are being said, but you're paying attention and you're understanding or trying to understand the person's perspective that is speaking. It's important during active listening that you resist the urge to interrupt and you allow this person that's talking to finish their thoughts before you respond. Active listening has a huge effect on whether or not a person feels comfortable sharing with you. Just think about this. If you're talking to someone and you're sharing your thoughts, your deepest, most intimate thoughts with them, and every other word you're being interrupted, how would that make you feel? It's going to make you stop wanting to share with that person because you're unable to complete your thoughts. They're not understanding what you're trying to communicate with them because every other word, they're interrupting you and they're placing themselves in your thoughts when that is not helping you effectively communicate what it is that you're feeling and thinking. The second tip or technique that you can use to become an effective communicator is to use non-verbal communication. We all do it. In this video, I'm sure that you see my eyes get big. I may move my hands this way. I may move my body this way. I may smile. I may take my smile away. These are all non-verbal communication. And they play a huge part in conveying the message that we're trying to express. When you maintain eye contact with someone, that is giving that person the okay to continue talking because you're focused, you're paying attention. When someone says something and you nod your head, that's letting that person know, hey, they're listening. I can continue. Body language can tell a person if you are approachable or if now is not a good time to talk to you. But you also have to remember how a person is. So use me for an example because, of course, I'm in this video. If you approach me and I'm like this, then you know, or you should know because of my body language, that I'm closed off. I'm not open. I'm not receptive to communication. Now, a caveat with that is if I'm always like this, because 9 times out of 10, I could always be cold, and my face is not scrounged up like it was in the previous example, it could just be that I'm cold in a moment. So you may want to try to test the waters to see if I'm open to communication. And it could simply be you coming by and say, hey, how are you doing today? Now, I'll tell you, I'm really not one for small talk, but I know through experience that that is how someone can gauge if you're open to communicating in that moment. The third tip that I'm going to share with you is to communicate effectively and clearly. Don't give a roundabout story when you're trying to communicate something for something that is as simple as, I'll be there at 10 o'clock. Don't sit and tell me, I got to do this, I have to do that, I have to go here, I have to do that. And the list can go on and on and on. When you can simply say, I'll meet you at your house at 10 o'clock, or I'll meet you at the restaurant at 10 o'clock, whatever the situation may be. And you also have to remember that people check out when you're talking, especially if they're not used to listening effectively. They will check out. So if someone is going to check out in 30 seconds, you want to get your messages across as quickly as possible. So you have to be clear and concise. Use simple language. Don't use a whole lot of technical language, because everyone may not be in the same field, so everyone's not going to know all the technical jargon. Everyone's not going to know what you're talking about if you use all of these high-tech terms, because everyone does not have the same knowledge base. So always try to remember to be clear and concise with what you're saying. The fourth tip is to practice empathy. Empathy is the act of being able to understand and share the feelings of someone. I'm not saying that you need to take on someone else's feelings, but it's good when you're able to understand their feelings and you can share with what they're experiencing. So try putting yourself in the person who is communicating shoes and see things from their perspective. And that helps us not always be so quick to judge. It helps us not always be so defensive when someone is talking to us. And practicing empathy helps us build strong relationships and improves our ability to connect with other people. And lastly, seek feedback when communicating with others. How else can you improve your skill without seeking feedback on what your friends, family, and colleagues thought on how you communicate? Everyone may see something different in the style that you communicate or the way that you communicate. So seeking feedback not only allows you to be a more effective communicator, but it allows you to kind of tailor your communication to the person that you're speaking with. As my coach has always reminded me, it is very important to know your audience. So if your friend is one way and they are in one field and their mind thinks a particular way, when I'm speaking to that friend, I have to be mindful of my audience. I can't speak to my friend the same way that I'm going to speak to my boss, who is in another mind frame, who has, another field that they are technical in, who has another perspective of things. You always have to be mindful of your audience, because when you lose your audience, your message does not get across. So, good communication is effective and essential for success in all areas of life. When we actively listen, when we use nonverbal communications, when we communicate clearly and we practice empathy, as well as seek feedback, we improve our communication skills and we can become more effective communicators. The idea of being able to communicate with someone and there not be any misunderstandings because I'm looking at them and not hearing their perspective. They're not listening to my perspective. They're not understanding where I'm coming from. We're not understanding each other. We no longer want to do that. We want to make sure that we are effectively communicating with everyone we encounter, because less headaches for us, and we are able to help more people through effective communication. In the comment section below, I want you to tell me one way that you are going to start effectively communicating. You know I'm going to read each and every comment. And as always, I thank you for joining me in this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next.